Yes, we got 4 people.
4.
Yeah.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to call to order this public meeting of the Board of Johnson County Commissioners on this 26th day of July 2021 at 10 o'clock a.m. Please pray with us. My mic on.
There we go. I like it better off. Can I turn it off? Yeah, if you care to pray with us, please do so, and then we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you bow with me for a moment of prayer, please? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the abundant blessings you bestow upon us. Dear Lord, we witness a worldwide effort to fight a pandemic of the virus. Lord, we just realized that if there was a worldwide effort to follow your Son's teaching, Jesus Christ, the world would be a much, much better place. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I know that these gentlemen are on a heavy time frame, so I'd like to have Andrew Forrester, Director of Intergovernmental Affairs at the Office of the Governor, come forward. And if you want to bring Tyler up, that's fine. If you want to bring him up too, or?
All right. Well, we're just happy to be here. My name's Andrew. This is my colleague Tyler, and we're part of the governor's office, and we're the governor's liaison to local elected officials. And so we like to make sure we get out to every county, talk to county commissioners, hear a little bit about the concerns, questions, ideas, things that you think the state needs to be taking a look at, whether it's about agencies or policies. And so we had a chance to meet this morning with Commissioner Baird and talk through some issues that are important to Johnson County. And so we just want to make sure that you know that we're here. You have a name with a face. We're not some faceless person sitting in an office in Indianapolis, that you know you can call us or reach out anytime that there's a question, idea, or concern. So I didn't really have anything big to bring up with you this morning, but happy to answer any questions that you got or just introduce myself.
Commissioner Barrett, I was sure that you heard our concerns.
So we had a nice meeting, nice conversation. And again, and I want to make sure that we're not trying to be separate of the state. We're just trying to be Johnson County. And very understanding of that. Appreciate them coming down and having a chat with us. Both of them very pleasant. It's a good thing.
Yep. Well, that's our main thing. When I joined the governor's staff, I asked him what he wanted from this department, and he said, "I want you to be out and about. I want you to know local elected officials and be attentive to their needs and concerns and be able to report back." Because as much as the governor likes to travel the state and gets around the state, it's hard to be in every single county all at the same time. So we help do that, and we just want you to know that you are welcome to reach out to us anytime. You've got our phone number, email, and we're happy to help with anything that might come up related to Johnson County.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
They did try to meet with me before, and I can't remember what happened. Something came up. I don't cancel meetings too often, but I wasn't able to make it, and Andrew and his team reached out to make sure we had that meeting followed up on. So I appreciate that. Most people would just forgot about us and moved on. So I appreciate you getting back to this and making it happen, sir. And anytime, I know you guys have to leave. Anytime you want to leave, just take off. Feel free to go. Don't worry about us. We won't call you out. We would if you were Luke Master, but we won't. Anyway, thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Have a fantastic day. Be safe out there. Mid-State Amateur Radio Club, September 4th and 11th event on county property.
Morning, Commissioners. Thank you for letting me attend this morning, and I'll make this very brief. First of all, my name is Bruce Tisdale. I live in Johnson County, and I am a member of the Mid-State Amateur Radio Club. Clarification, I'm sure you've all heard of ham radio operators. We're licensed by the FCC. Majority of our members, we have about 60 of them, are in Johnson County. There are a few that are members that are outside the county limits. But we represent the community in regard to the amateur radio community. We do not only promote the hobby, but we also serve a cross purpose in that we serve as an auxiliary or a assistance to the county in times of emergency. Some of you may recall the flood we had in town here a number of years back. We were part of that. As communication breaks down, both within the county and between members of the formal emergency counties, we are there to help out. And so we have done that many times in other emergencies as well, not only weather related. Okay, now having said that, that's our background. We have worked in the past with Stephanie, the Director of Emergency Affairs. We had offices for quite a few years out by the county jail. And about 5 or 6 years ago, they moved us because of the transition there in space to a location at the prosecutor's office. We have a small area there that we have our amateur radio equipment. We do a lot of our activities there briefly, and they allow us that opportunity to be there. Okay, now having said all that, what we're requesting today is one of the activities that we sort of like to do is what we call a tailgate ham fest, and it's basically a flea market of ham radio equipment. We have a number of our members that come basically locate a parking spot, set up for a couple hours, and sell to other hams either within the club or within the community that we invite to come down. Since we're already located at the prosecutor's office there, we asked the prosecutor about the use of the parking lot that is just north of the prosecutor's office for a couple hours on either September 4th or the 11th, probably like from 8 to noon, maybe even not that long, to set up in the parking spots since they're closed and have our function there. We've identified several parking locations there. You'll have to excuse my primitive art, but I did bring a little chart. Hopefully you can see this, but I'm guessing you might not be able to. But basically, the prosecutor's office being down there, there are the parking lot. There's 2 rows of parking spots on the on the west end. There's a number of designated spots. We're going to leave those open. Okay, there's sheriff's spots. There's prosecutor staff spots. Even though they're not working that day, we're going to leave those alone. There are approximately 5 or 10 spots on the east side, as well as another row of about 10. That's what we're asking for, just the use of those spots for a couple hours. And people coming to the event, we would have them park in the upper lot on the north side, which happens to belong to the Frank Landing Park Department. We've already talked to them and they're fine. They can't close their parking lot. So obviously it's open to the public, but we would certainly control both the parking there as well as designated spots that are being used for this event. We're not charging for it. Basically, the only interaction is between the individual selling and buying there. We do promise to take care of the facilities there, clean up after ourselves. We do have insurance, which I brought a copy of. If you have interest in looking at that, making sure it's up to date, I understand that and we respect that. Basically, that's our request. And we picked 2 dates there because I didn't know if anything else was going on. that the county commission would be concerned with. So wanted to have alternative dates. We would prefer the second date on the 11th, but certainly are more than happy to go with the earlier date if that's acceptable. That's it. Made it quick as I could. Any questions that you might have?
I would have a question for Joe, or you're okay with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speak real quick. Joe Villanueva with Prosecutor's Office. Yeah, we're 100% in favor of helping out the amateur radio club. They've been great kind of co-tenants of the building, got along real well. I think they are kind of an extension of our county government emergency services anyway. So we don't really have an unknown person coming in to ask for this kind of stuff. They're someone who's in our building every day. I see no security issues, don't have any impact on our stuff. So we really support them in that.
Thank you, Joe.
That was my question.
I have a motion and a second. My concern's only certificate of insurance, I assume we'll need, and Sheena can make sure you know what you need. Sure.
Okay.
So the motion okay with it being pending legal? Second. Good with that. I have a motion and a second pending legal. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The one thing I will make sure that you do know, though, is that the sheriff's charity ride's on the 11th. I don't know if that will affect your event or not, but am I correct in that, Damon? And it's the 11th?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So,
Do they use that property site? Or?
no, but could be coming through there, and or could be a lot of people involved in that event instead of going to your event.
Yeah, that's fine. No problem at all.
I just want to make sure you were aware.
Thank you.
Sheriff's ride draws a crowd. Elected officials and department heads VASIA approval to apply for 2022 Indiana Supreme Court VASIA grant.
Lauren Ragnarsson, VASIA Director. I just need approval to apply for the grant for next year.
Second.
A motion and second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Animal control ordinance number 2021-0-11, amending Johnson County ordinance 15-3-2-2.
Michael Hill, Director of Animal Control. Commissioners, I'm here today for first reading to amend ordinance regarding redemption of animals, changing the fine and fee structure just slightly for first-time offenders.
On the paragraph B, if the owner agrees to have the animal spayed or neutered, the fine shall be reduced to $100. Well, it's 100 to start with.
So the $100 would pay for the spay neuter and the vaccines as well. But the $100 would that fine pays for the spay or neuter. So they can pay a fine that goes into the spay neuter fund, or they can have their animal spay or neutered and vaccinated for $100.
Well, the way that reads, it just says the fine will be reduced to $100. There's no reduction in the fine. If you want to attach it to spay and neutering, that part, you need to put that in it.
$500 for a subsequent offense.
I see that, I know that.
They
but
can either pay $100 on the first offense and not get a spayed or neutered, or they can pay $100 and get a spayed or neutered on the first offense.
Oh, I think I know what Ron's
What you're saying is the fine is $100. And then you're coming back and saying the fine will be reduced to $100. I didn't say anything about that $100 being used to spay and neuter. I think they need to change the verbiage.
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying, Ron. The choice of paying a fine of $100 or spay or neuter.
Either way, you're paying $100.
Yes.
There's no reduction. You're paying
I don't think it's been a problem so far.
No, no, it hasn't. What we do is just let people know that the $100 will be used to pay for the spay neuter and typically vaccines that go with it. And microchip if they so desire. It's all included in that. Just free bargain. We've had 68 unaltered dogs come into the shelter since January 1st. Of the 68, 60 have chosen to have their animals spayed or neutered. 8 declined to do so and paid the larger fine. Of those 8 who paid the larger fine, 6 of those individuals were repeat offenders. And so my thought is for first-time offenders, I really don't want to give them the option of either paying a $500 fine or getting their animals spayed or neutered. I'd like to give them an option of getting the animal back to them without either paying the $500 fine. I can say that or being neutered. Second offenses, then the larger fine comes into play.
Hey, Michael, on the 8 dogs that chose not to get this done, were they hunting dogs or were they just breeding dogs? Or
a couple of
I'm
them.
just asking, I mean,
Sure. Michelle, a couple of them were purebred dogs that the individual was intent or wanted to breed. Most of the dogs were actually mixed breeds. It was more of a opinion from the owner that by getting my animal neutered, it was almost always a neuter in that case, would somehow devalue the animal as a pet for that person. So, we always encourage people that, hey, if there's some behavioral issues, which typically are running at large, many of those issues can be eliminated with having your animals spay or neutered, and increases the animal's lifespan typically.
Second. Motion and second. Any further discussion?
Are we changing the language?
I can work on that language if you want it clarified. Like I said, that's the way it's been. I don't know if you run into any trouble with
Yeah,
it.
I did. I just read it again. It just says that the owner agrees to spay or neuter such animal prior to its return to owner or herbivorous. So I think you got to put the cost of that in there, and then reduce the fine to 0.
I think the idea is the fine covers the costs for the spay or neuter. So that's why it has
I
only been.
understand that. I'm just going by the language here. I would bet that if they agree, the cost to do so would be $100 and the fine would be reduced to 0.
The cost of spay neuter would be different. I see what you're saying.
The first offense.
First offense.
Yeah.
First offense, so you don't change anything else.
You can change it. It's up to you.
change that motion to.
Second. Motion and second, pending legal. Any further?
Commissioners, I have one more thing that actually came in late Friday that I didn't have time to put on the agenda. This is as if we need another excuse to eat pastries and so forth, but Norma Jean's Pastries in Franklin, during the month of August, 10% of all her sales are going to benefit the animal shelter. So I encourage everyone to.
There you go, Commissioner West.
8 pastries.
8 pastries.
I could put them over the top single-handedly.
Let me finalize our vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries on the other. Now we can talk about the pastries.
Now let's talk about pastries. Chris, if I get you an email, could you send that out countywide?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So,
Yeah, I'd even eat pastries for puppies.
yeah, I like that. Pastries for puppies.
I'd eat pastries for that. You know,
Well, thank you, Commissioner.
thanks, sir. I appreciate it. Planning and zoning. Approval of reuse of FEMA flood buyout property.
Good morning, Michelle Hanser, Director of Planning and Zoning. I have a
reuse lease application. This is 8079 Mullinex Road, Greenwood, Indiana. The lease was offered to a property owner that has sold the property. They are north of this property at 843 Mullinex. The current property owners are CP Realty LLC, which is actually Robert C. Pointer. He's filed for a lease agreement to use that property as it is now, just vacant land to go with the structure, no improvements. We have sent this off to FEMA in DNR, or sorry, in Indiana Homeland Security, and they both have approved it. So we're just asking for approval to continue that lease to the property owners.
Move to approve.
Motion is second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Just really briefly, I don't think we'll have a whole lot coming up. I know the existing leases, some of them expire in maybe 2024, 2026. But is this something that you guys want to have each lease come back to you after we get the state and the federal approved? Or do you want to kind of give a blanket approval?
So basically release is all you're doing.
I mean, personally, I would like to see it because that whole area over there is going to take a whole new base. And I think if everybody's informed about that, that would be good. I guess might be the person. And I don't know why they're doing it right now, but I kind of do, but I don't. But I would still, I mean, she just needs to do this 2-minute presentation, kind of know how many are going out. If this becomes repetitive, then we'll know that there's bigger, because it's going to come back to us, I think, eventually.
Yeah, and there's, I mean, it's Mullinex and then Bluff Road too, that subdivision one there as well.
If the other two don't have an objection, I'd just like to have her.
All right, and I just want to, we have a new employee starting today, our senior planner. She's right there, Rachel.
Bring her up, she can talk to us, see what she says for her first public meeting.
She's passing. I can see she's passing on that, ain't she not?
What was her name?
Rachel Schaefer.
Rachel. Nice to meet
Rachel, welcome aboard. I won't make you come up. It's, you just blame that on
Say hi.
him.
Where are you from? That's me.
She came from Iowa.
Iowa. Oh, Iowa. Yeah. Okay.
15. Hey, highway.
Good morning, Luke Maston, Highway Director. One item for the agenda today is requesting your approval and execution of financial commitment letters for our 2021 community crossings applications. For this round of applications, we are proposing partial milling and overlay of quite a few of our neighborhood concrete streets that are in poor condition. Ultimately, these streets need to be reconstructed, but that cost is going to be astronomical. So this will hopefully give us some more time on those streets so that we can get around to them within our financial limitations.
Obviously, this concrete street it's been the topic now a long time. And I think it's finally coming to a head to the point where we're going to have to do some serious appropriation to get some of this work done. In fact, I think next month, I got an email from one HOA person, they're planning on coming in mass to our meeting in August. And I've raised this concern many times over the years. We've got all these subdivisions, concrete streets who have literally went 30 years without costing us any money in the way of maintenance, and now we're to the point where many of them are in serious need of either replacement or resurfacing one way or the other. Given the time element that's involved with complete reconstruction, I kind of like the resurfacing aspect, at least buys us a little time. Hopefully, you can mill it enough that you're not gonna have degradation in it too quickly. I know you said a year in your report, but hopefully it gets a little longer than that out of some of that resurfacing.
Yeah, so the analysis we did, it admittedly is somewhat subjective, though it was done by people pretty long tenure that have been dealing with this problem at the highway department for a while. So they know what they're looking at. The recommendation scales were essentially, if we don't do anything, that's where we think we'll need to be with reconstruction. So, and there's some, this is not the ideal fix necessarily because it's not a permanent fix. And there's some things that we could do, like maintaining the gutter line so that drainage works like it's supposed to, that we think that will make this more successful than some of the overlays that have been done by the county.
And in the report, you addressed that gutter line, maintaining the gutter line on those areas that has been resurfaced. You could mill those off too, right? And resurface and reestablish that gutter line or not?
We can mill those off. What we found, probably most recently, we did some mill and overlay work in El Dorado. Those streets that had the asphalt had been paved up to the gutter, and that's causing a lot of the problems there because there's nowhere for the water to go. The problem is when you mill the asphalt off, it's difficult to not get into the concrete, especially over at the gutter line where it's not uniform. So what we found was the gutters were not where they originally were supposed to be when it was a smooth concrete surface. It's difficult to take the asphalt off and not damage the concrete underneath. That would be no issue. Because that was one of the first discussions that we had, was whether or not we could get the asphalt off on those streets and continue to essentially reestablish the old drainage in the gutter line. But previous paving that was done, it makes it very difficult. We could leave it as it is, but it's a pretty rough milled surface, and I'm confident that it would drain. So that's one of the things we're trying to avoid here by maintaining that gutter line and keeping our milling just inside.
I also noticed in your report you've mentioned trying to do several of these projects in-house. And I understand there's probably cost savings associated with that, but from a time standpoint, I'm not so sure we would be better off to bid them out and get them all done, as many as possible.
And the actual milling and overlay work all would be contracted. What we would do in-house is a little bit of prep work on those roads. There are some curbs that are failed, for example, or there are some concrete panels. Probably won't replace a lot of them, but we'll try to get them in a condition to where they're ready for contractor, and it gives us the best chance of being successful. So that in-house work is really limited to prep work ahead of the overlay work. One quick note, the estimates that were provided are still being finalized. So that the total number that I gave you, we will nail that down before we submit the application this week. We will be submitting 15 applications, one for each neighborhood. And so there will be 15 financial commitment letters that need to be signed. I am happy to get with all of you later in the week, or if you are comfortable with just one commissioner signing, that might be easier, but it's whatever the board is comfortable with.
I guess it just, anytime you say the word temporary to me, that just raises the hair on the back of my neck. But why would we throw money at something temporarily that we're going to have to go back and redo? That's going to cost us just as much or more to redo right at the time than it does
Now, the problem is the existing conditions of the road. These roads are in very poor shape. And
We have a lot of roads in very poor shape.
we do. Many of those are not concrete streets. So the longer that it takes us to get to reconstruction, and we know, based on the last couple of years, pretty expensive price tag to get that work done. A lot of these roads either already need to be reconstructed or will need to be before we can even get to them. So when I say temporary, I'm looking at 5 to 10 year time frame is what we could potentially add to these roads. Now,
So then we just kick them down the road again until we have to get to this point again. It's what I'm getting at. And I'm not blaming anybody. It's not you, or it's just the process.
I think the best way to think about it is we need to do something to stop the leak before we can actually fix what's causing it.
So we're gonna use a real expensive Band-Aid.
Well, or we
So we're gonna do.
or we bleed out. And that's where we are.
As long as that's out there and up front, I just want that to be known.
Well, and I, both publicly and in conversations with all of you, we've tried to avoid doing this because of places where it's not been successful in the past. But we're at the point that we need to keep these roads together. And the intent is not that we're just going to do this and then we're going to move on. We still have reconstruction that needs to happen. What we're doing is buying some time until we can afford to actually get to those projects.
When you say afford, you mean because we don't have the financial capability to get to those, or we don't have the ability to get to those?
We don't have the financial capability for those.
Then wouldn't it make more sense to try to figure out a way to be financially able to do those projects than to just keep throwing money at it until we get it there?
I think we have to do both. So in the report that I provided, the worst case road, the worst condition roads were the 1 to 3 year time frame. Understand, those are probably mostly 1 year time frame. That was just under $9 million was our cost estimate just to reconstruct those. At best, we receive the full community crossings award every year. We can put about $2 million a year towards this type of work, but that doesn't go very far. And in that time frame, 2s become 1s and 3s become 2s. So we need to set a baseline. We need to stop that deterioration as best we can until we can afford to get to the full reconstruction.
Yeah, the problem which you just described, that we try to do the reconstruction and the maximum way to do it. The timing is such that the roads that are kind of marginal right now are going to get to the point where they're going to have major reconstruction. You look at 5 or 10 years down the road for some of these streets, they just won't hold up that long. So even though I can understand your concern about spending money on a Band-Aid approach, I don't see any other alternative right now to get some of this, to get all of it done in a fashion that will, one, satisfy the homeowners, and two, buy us a little time. We got to have more than $2 million a year in community crossing. That's not, we got to have.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's a funding issue more than anything, but
If we had the money, we could do it all 100% right now, but we don't have the money.
the point is though, is we say temporarily fixed and give us 5 to 10 years, but then in 5 to 10 years, we're going to be at the same place we are today. We're not moving anything forward. All we're doing is delaying the inevitable. That's my point.
No, that's the necessarily, because the parts that he's going to be able to do the reconstruction on by converting them to asphalt, we won't have that kind of a maintenance problem 5 or 10 years down the road. So it's really a time measure right now, as I see it. I've mentioned before that we paid off that $5 million+ bond on a Whiteland Road project. And I have said before, I'd like to see us reconsidering that bond and apply it to these needs that he's expressed here in his report. Paid that off, $500,000 a year was a payment on it over a period of time. That came out of the surtax for the fuel tax. That would be the same there going forward. I'd give him another $5 million to move towards getting some of this done, and we could still find some other funding.
What do we need to do in this year? What do we need to do in this year?
I make a motion.
Well, let's say you want to get this thing done first. We should cross it. Something else. I mean, I think we're all in the same boat. We all want to figure out a solution to this problem, and it's financial. It's the biggest. And we just don't have the money. I bet if we do this unless we go to a bond system or something.
Sounds like we have one place to go. Pretty good in it.
It would. The terms on that bond was just shy of a $6 million bond. The overall principal and interest payments the first year were, the first 2 years, it was front loaded. So it was about 1.1 to 1.2 million for the first 2 year period. After that, it was in the $600,000 to $700,000 range a year. However, with that bond, a large portion of the interest was paid by the federal government. That was done at a time around the ARRA timeframe, I believe. And there was a program available where there was federal money available to pay some of that interest for capital projects. I don't know that that program is still in place, so our payments, if we went that size, would go, we have to cover the rest of that interest. But it was 10 years worth of payments. But it would give us a large lump sum of money to really make a pretty good dent. My only concern is the number we really need is just so large. So, but we could go a long way with a good sized bond like that and do a lot of good. Most definitely.
I mean, I'm going to still talk about this a little bit. I mean, I know there's White River Township is predominant in this, but I still wouldn't, Commissioner Barrett and myself both have subdivisions in our areas. I don't want to put 100% up there. I mean, if we can come to a mutual, I mean, it's going to be a high percentage, 80%, 70% up in the White River Township area. But keep some reserve back. Once they start working up there, we're going to get knocked on our doors too. So,
in the middle district, Nyberg subdivision on 100 North, that's one we had some conversations about. We ultimately didn't include it in here because those are concrete streets that have already been overlaid. Those were not included in this analysis because for the time being, we look at those as asphalt surfaces in our PACER program and can resurface those as needed. So certainly there's no question that the bulk of our neighborhoods are in line with the county, but we have neighborhoods in other places in the county, and we try not to let those drop off the radar.
just as long as the new roads are built right with under drains and everything else, I'm all in.
That's what they need to be.
Yeah, I think that's the motion.
Second.
Motion is second.
I can see somebody decipher all that.
Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Luke.
Are you comfortable with one commissioner signing the letters?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
It'll be later in the week, probably Thursday or so.
If you want to just, before you put the commissioner's name on it, just find one you can get to, and then,
I'll see who's available.
yeah, just do it that way. That way you don't have to go searching.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you very much.
Approval of HWC Engineering Task Order number 2, that's Valley Road.
I would make a motion to approve pending legal.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. General Obligation Bond Series 2021A, Bond Counsel of Kirk E. Grable. Have a motion and a second. Any further?
Now we kept it locked in. Why should have stopped? Please with that.
He does a good job. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Peters Municipal, same thing, General Obligation Bond Series 2021A. Have a motion and second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Claims, new and old business claims and credit card.
Under claims, I just, only one thing, I saw kind of, Johnson County Health Department claim for $31.81 they paid back to themselves.
Probably a bookkeeping thing that I'll check it out for you.
That's all I had. I was gonna thank the sheriff, take the word back to him. He had some pretty healthy expenditures on credit card charges that he paid for out of commissary, so tell him thank you for that. One of them bought 25 laptops for $19,000.
This sheriff does a really good job
Yeah.
using the commissary and working with us on that. And I did want, I was gonna bring that up sooner or later, that I appreciate their help and everything they've done, because they've been really, really helpful with us in costs and things this year. And since I've been here.
I moved to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further?
Oh, did you have something?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Under old business, we had discussed our appointment to CERTA, and at the time we didn't have an applicant for that. We do now, and I'm going to recommend that we appoint Ron Deere to the CERTA board to represent the county.
Have we ever had this?
Yeah, he used to be on there.
I don't think it was county. I think he might have done.
Yeah, he was on Greenwood City Council at the
I
time.
understand.
Yeah, I don't know that we've ever had personally, the county had a representative on there.
That doesn't obligate us to pay any money, right?
Right,
Okay.
no cost involved.
I want to get that out there. Have a motion and a second to appoint Ron Deere on that CERTA board. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner minutes 7/12/2021 for approval.
Second.
I heard that. That was good. Have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Other comment? Going once. Twice.
Move to adjourn.
All right. Motion and second. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.